Hi everyone, my name is Charlie, and today I have a review of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Now, Rebecca is one of those books on BookTube that I think has been popularised mostly by Simon over at Savage Reads, but then I think a lot of people have caught on to this fact that this book is a classic. It hasn't gone out of print since it was first released. When does it tell me? It told me this yesterday. Since 1930 something? Yeah, since 1938. And I finished reading The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters, and I was looking for books that were going to have that same sort of gothic type of storytelling and basically from all the reviews I've heard before, I thought that that was the sort of book that I was going to get. And whilst this book is indeed gothic, I don't think that it was necessarily for me. I mean, first I'll give you an idea of the plot. And the plot is that this unnamed narrator, the second Mrs. De Winter, meets this Max De Winter whilst she is being like a companion for this older woman, and they quickly fall in love, and he brings her back to Manderley. Now, Manderley is one of those big settings in literature that even without reading Rebecca, I knew the name of Manderley. I knew the first line of this book, and because of the books and the films that have come out after Rebecca but have clearly been inspired by Rebecca, I understood where this book was going to go. I knew how the book was going to end. That doesn't mean that I was happy with the final paragraph, the final bit of this book. Now, I recorded a currently reading video, and in that you'll see that I was fed up with these really overly long descriptions. Now, I understood why they were there. They were being used to create this very vivid picture of what Manderley was like. Setting is very important in these sorts of fictions. And setting is a big thing within crime fiction. And when I first went into this book, I didn't realise that I was reading what other people deemed as like a gothic crime sort of thriller of its day. I didn't know that that was something I should expect. But personally, I never got on with the main character. I never got on with the narrator. At first, I thought she was a complete idiot. I think she was being painted as this simpleton just because she didn't come from the same world as Max, and she was allowing herself to behave that way. And I felt like she never had a backbone. And I was actually, in the beginning, agreeing somewhat with Mrs. Danvers, and Mrs. Danvers is supposed to be one of the biggest villains within fiction. Like, hers is a name we know without even knowing the book, like Voldemort or, I don't know, Dracula, some of the other villains that we know of, that we don't need to have read their works to know that they're a bad person. Mrs. Danvers is that character, and yet I was rooting for her. I was like, yes, just get rid of the second Mrs. De Winter. Let's hear Mrs. Danvers' story. Because, to me, Mrs. Danvers was clearly, throughout the entire book, a woman grieving for Rebecca, the first Mrs. De Winter. And basically, there's some talk of a party within the book, and Mrs. Danvers and the narrator do, get into something, and I'm like, I know where this is going. I can tell where this is going. If you're going to be the idiot who can't actually understand where this is going, then I'm not rooting for you. And then we hit the page 300 mark, and we learn what Rebecca was truly like, because throughout the entirety of the book, we have been told that she lit up rooms and everybody loved her, and it's really a bit imposing and hard for the narrator, because she worries about having to, step up and be like like Rebecca, and don't try it. And we find out these revelations about Rebecca, and honestly, I was there like, well, I'm sad that this woman's dead now, because she sounds like a fine character. She sounds like somebody that I would honestly like to meet. And maybe that's my problem. Maybe one of the problems I have is that I'm constantly looking... Am I always looking at every character's motive and seeing who I care about the most? I don't know. I've cared for villains before within books and known that that's not the thing that I should do, but Mrs. Danvers in here, I was just like, I felt for Mrs. Danvers, and everything to me that she did was an expression of her grief, and I was a bit like, yeah, I can't see this woman as a villain, and I really just never got on with the unnamed narrator. And when she and Max decide to do something towards the end of the book, I wasn't rooting for them, and I realised that I reached the party. The party is like I reached halfway through this book, and there was a turn, and I ended up really wanting to end the book, like rushing through the pages. I read 250 pages of this 420-page book yesterday. That was because my sister was watching a TV show that I didn't want spoiled for me, but still. And I was really racing to finish the book because I wanted to know what happened, and then what I wanted to happen didn't happen, and that didn't necessarily ruin the book for me. Like, I understood why the book ended where it did. I understood what it was trying to do. It reminded me so much of like the classic films in this era, and that I feel like it inspired. Like I say, I feel like it inspired a lot of films and literature, and I don't think that Du Maurier is a bad writer at all, and in the end I actually became quite accustomed to the descriptions because they reminded me of Sarah Waters, because I realised that the descriptions in Sarah Waters, I liked the slow narrative of the little stranger, even though it took me more time to read and it was like wading through treacle. I enjoyed that, and I began to enjoy it here, and it was just that the characters let me down, and it's not a story I particularly I don't think that it's good. I don't like I said, I can appreciate what it does. I just don't think it's good, and I don't like the heroine. And if I don't like the narrator of the book that is being presented to me, and I know I'm supposed to feel sympathy for them, then surely that says something about the book to me. And maybe it's just who I am myself. Maybe, I don't understand it. I honestly went into this book expecting to really enjoy it, to fly through it, and I didn't because of all the things. Maybe the book was one of those overhyped things, and I shouldn't have allowed it to like sway my I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I did not in the end enjoy the book as much as I thought I would. It's probably like I don't do star ratings, so whilst I can appreciate the good and the bad, for me there was more bad in this book. And I know that I'm going to read more of this author's works in the future, but I had anticipated being one of these people to read Rebecca and go straight out and like consume everything that this writer had written before, and I found that I no longer had the drive within me at the end to go out and seek this author's works. What do you think of Rebecca? I know it is a well-loved book, and I know that there are going to be plenty of people around who actually completely disagree with me, and that is perfectly fine. Let's discuss this book in the comments, and let's see whether we can get Charlie to think more about this book and his opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.